Welcome back, everyone. Before we dive in, make sure you drop your thoughts and the lessons you took from this story in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get into it. My husband texted, "I want a divorce." All communication through my lawyer. I replied, "Understood." Then I canceled his credit cards and cut all financial support. 72 hours later, his lawyer was frantically calling me, and I later learned he was leaving me for my own sister. It is a strange thing, the anatomy of a collapse. You imagine a single cataclysmic event, a thunderclap that splits your life in two. But the end of my 15-year marriage did not arrive as a bang. It was a quiet, insidious buzz, the vibration of a cell phone on a polished oak desk. A sound so ordinary it felt sinister. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and my life was about to divide into two parts, before and after. The before was that morning. It was beautifully normal. Our kitchen was filled with early autumn sunlight, the golden kind that softens edges and illuminates the tiny dust motes drifting in delicate spirals. I can still smell the French roast coffee I brewed, the scent that had framed our 5,475 mornings together. Malcolm sat at the kitchen island, hunched over his phone, scrolling with single-minded intensity. He wore the gray t-shirt I had bought him, the one with a faint paint stain from when we tried repainting the guest room last summer. "Morning," I said, warm, as I slid his favorite blue mug toward him. "Hey," he grunted, eyes on the screen. "Thanks." His distance was not new. For months he had been sealed inside a bubble of stress I could not penetrate. He blamed a client's demands, a creative block, everything and nothing. I, ever the steady wife, nodded and gave him space. We discussed the leaky faucet. I reminded him for the third time to call the plumber. He nodded vaguely. We commented on the neighbor's oversized truck. It was the sturdy wallpaper of a long marriage. When he stood to leave for his home office, our converted spare bedroom, he gave my cheek a quick, dry peck. "Love you," he said, the words an automatic punctuation as he turned away. I felt that small familiar pang. I reminded myself, this was a rough patch. We were solid. We were Talia and Malcolm. At work, I found sanctuary in order and logic. As an accounting manager, numbers soothe me. They are honest. They balance. They do not gossip or equivocate. That afternoon, I wrestled a beast of a spreadsheet for our quarterly financial review, the office humming around me. Keyboards clicking, phones trilling softly, my colleague Maya murmuring about her son's new girlfriend. I tuned it out. It was just me and the numbers. Then the buzz. Not a loud sound, but it cut straight through my focus. I glanced down. A text from Malcolm. A small smile lifted my mouth. Maybe an apology for the morning, or a suggestion for takeout. I swiped to open. The words were short and brutal. "Talia, I want a divorce. Please direct all future communication through my lawyer, Mr. Ellison. His contact details will follow." I read it once, twice, 3 times. The words would not compute. Divorce. Lawyer. Mr. Ellison. The spreadsheet blurred into a meaninglessness of cells and lines. My ears rang with a high, thin tone. Blood went cold. Something orderly inside me loosened and tipped. I told myself it was a prank. A hack. But I knew. The tone was Malcolm's, efficient, detached, devoid of emotion. It read like a business memo. He was closing an account. Ours. Underneath the shock, a great wave gathered and broke. Hurt so heavy it pressed the breath from my chest. 15 years. We had survived a miscarriage, his father's long illness, my mother's constant uninvited commentary. We had built a life brick by patient brick. And he tore it down with a text message while I color-coded cells. "Talia?" Maya appeared at my cubicle wall. "Do you have a second to look at these profit and loss numbers? Something is off." I looked up at her from the bottom of a well. I had to force my mouth into the shape of a smile. "Sure," I said. "Give me 5 minutes." She nodded and vanished. The world kept turning for everyone else. Mine had stopped. In those 5 minutes, something inside me shifted. The inferno of pain was still there, but a layer of ice formed on top, thin at first, then thicker. He had drawn the lines, lawyers only. Fine. If he wanted our marriage reduced to a legal proceeding, then I would be the most logical, meticulous, unemotional participant he had ever seen. I typed a single word back, understood. On the drive home, I was a ghost piloting a car through familiar streets. The radio played a cheerful pop song we had once sung on road trips. The sound was obscene in its brightness. I switched it off. Suburban calm greeted me when I turned into our neighborhood, Mrs. Henderson watering her roses, the Miller kids riding bikes. I pulled into our driveway and sat for a moment in the crush of silence. Inside, the silence changed, heavier, layered, dense with absence. His non-presence vibrated in the walls. I checked the closet. A block of his clothes was gone, leaving a gap on the rod, a few empty hangers on the floor. He had taken the suits, the favorite jeans, and left the faded university sweatshirt I once thought he would keep forever. I checked his office, laptop gone, portfolio gone. The bookshelf remained, lined with the books I had given him. A first edition of his favorite author, a poetry collection I thought romantic, artifacts from a vanished civilization. I ended in my own small office, where our life was managed on paper. I sank into my chair. The wedding photo face down on the desk was a flare. Rage rose, clean and hot. How dare he? How dare he dismantle our life with such cowardly efficiency? The rage burned away paralysis. The ice returned, honed to an edge. If he wanted to erase us, I would help him make it neat. I opened my laptop. This I could control. First, the American Express card. My account. My credit score. He was an authorized user, benefits without responsibility. I logged in, navigated to his name, and clicked Remove User. Next, the monthly transfer, the allowance, I now called it with sour clarity. I remembered how it started, a late-paying client, his anxiety, my generous promise. We are a team. My salary is our salary. He had called me his rock. I found the recurring payment and deleted it. The confirmation flashed. This transaction has been permanently canceled. Then the digital web, our streaming accounts and shared services. I signed out all devices, changed passwords to strings he could not guess. Netflix, the premium channels, the music, the delivery apps. Each click was a clean cut. The car he drove was leased in my name, insured under my policy. I tamped down the urge to report it stolen. Illegal, messy. Instead, I opened a new document, Agenda for Lawyer. Underneath, I listed lease, gas card cancellation, insurance review. Near midnight, I had systematically, efficiently, and legally dismantled the financial scaffolding of our shared life. Revenge? I told myself no. Self-preservation. He had shoved me into open water. I was ensuring he did not keep the life raft. An email landed. Contact information, Ellison Law. I forwarded it to the attorney I intended to retain, Ms. Whitaker, a shark in a tailored suit, as my friend Tanya once said about her. I wrote, forwarding contact from my husband's counsel. He demanded a divorce via text and declared lawyer-only communication. I have complied and secured my accounts. I need to retain you immediately. Please advise next steps. I hit send. The fortress was up. The 72 hours that followed were psychological torture. The fortress became a cell. Silence pressed at my temples. I drifted through rooms like a shadow. Sleep did not help. I lay in our bed staring at the ceiling's shifting shadows, the indentation on his side a taunt. My mind reran recent months, his locked phone, his faraway eyes. The not knowing was a physical ache. At work, I performed normalcy. Meetings. Notes. Coffee machine chatter. I felt split, competent on the outside, bewildered within. The urge to call him clawed at me. To demand why. To ask if 15 years meant nothing. But his instruction, lawyers only, rose like a stop sign. I would not be the emotional stereotype. I would keep my dignity. The urge to call my sister Jasmine was worse. She was my person. I had practically raised her after our father died. I typed a text late one night. Jasmine, something terrible has happened. Can you talk? Then I remembered how oddly defensive she had been about Malcolm recently. The Las Vegas trip, how she had deflected simple questions. A cold instinct said wait. I deleted the text. The other shoe dropped on Friday afternoon during rush hour traffic. An unknown local number pierced the air. I pulled into a strip mall parking lot and stared at the laundromat spinning clothes like a deranged kaleidoscope. I steadied my breath and answered. Hello. A clipped male voice. Is this Talia? This is she. This is Mr. Ellison. I represent Malcolm. I am aware, I said evenly. I received your contact information. He cleared his throat. Let us get straight to it. My client is experiencing significant difficulties. His credit cards were declined at a grocery store. His bank account is empty. Funds have been abruptly and maliciously cut off. As you should know, the financial status quo is typically maintained during separation to ensure stability. I watched a bright red sock tumble and tumble. Mr. Ellison, I said, voice level as ice. Let me be clear. On Tuesday afternoon, my husband sent a text message that read verbatim, I want a divorce. All communication through my lawyer. I received that directive, understood it, and complied in full. The informal financial arrangements of our marriage rested on trust and mutual communication. Your client unilaterally obliterated that foundation. Those arrangements ceased to exist at 1:42 p.m. on Tuesday. Papers rustled on his end. He had expected sobbing compliance. He got precision. He needs funds now, he said more quietly. For necessities. For accommodation. Accommodation? I asked. Where is he staying? He has a perfectly good home. That is not pertinent, he snapped. You have acted in bad faith. You left him with nothing. The accusation dislodged my patience. Bad faith, I said, voice dropping. Bad faith is detonating a 15-year marriage by text. Bad faith is packing while I am at work earning the money that pays the mortgage on the house he abandoned. Bad faith is hiring a lawyer before speaking to the woman he vowed to love. My husband wanted a legal, formal separation. That is exactly what he is getting. Any future support will be determined by law, not by bullying phone calls. A long silence. My client will be filing a motion for emergency financial relief, he said at last. That is his right, I replied. Direct all filings to my attorney, Ms. Whitaker. You have her details. And as this call did not include counsel, it violates your client's own rule. Good day. I ended the call with a steady hand. Adrenaline surged, not fear but power. The hearing papers landed with the swiftness of a thrown stone. The amount they demanded was obscene. A luxury apartment, a new car lease, groceries, discretionary spending, and legal fees. Ms. Whitaker was unfazed. A classic bully tactic, she said, calm and sharp. We will counter with facts. She drafted a response that was a surgical map. I continued to pay all marital debts from my salary. The mortgage, utilities, car insurance, property taxes. We proposed a lean budget for Malcolm based on reasonable expenses, not a life upgraded on my dime. Then the personal attacks began. Human Resources summoned me to a meeting with my boss, Mr. Thompson, and the HR manager, Ms. Garner. We received an anonymous complaint, Ms. Garner said, reading from a paper, alleging erratic and unstable behavior and misuse of company resources for personal legal matters. The room tilted. Before I could breathe, Mr. Thompson leaned in. I have supervised Talia for 7 years, he said firmly. She is the most reliable and ethical employee I have. Even under personal strain, her work is exemplary. This complaint is baseless and malicious. A cursory check of my logs confirmed it. They dismissed the complaint. Still, the attack left a bruise. The next blow came from my mother, Evelyn. I was just on the phone with your sister, she began in a syrupy tone. She and Malcolm are under so much stress. He is not sleeping. He is losing weight. They just want this to be over so they can start their life together. Then they should stop suing me for money he is not entitled to, I said. She sighed theatrically. Oh, Talia, why must you always be so difficult? This is about family. Your sister is in love. I have never seen her so happy. Her happiness is built on my heartbreak, I said, heat rising. How can you not see that? She delivered the line that severed our last thread. Your father always said you were the strong one. You can handle anything. Jasmine is more fragile. She needs this. She needs Malcolm. You are strong enough to take this loss. She is not. She used my father's memory as a cudgel. She framed my plain pain as strength and my sister's selfishness as delicate need. I felt a cold, absolute clarity. I will say this once, I said. You have chosen a side, and it is not mine. Do not call me to plead their case. As far as I am concerned, I no longer have a sister, and I am rethinking whether I have a mother. I hung up and blocked both numbers. The silence that followed was terrifying and liberating. The next morning, I sat in Ms. Whitaker's office. They will not stop, I said. They plan to exhaust and isolate me. I want a full forensic financial discovery. I want to know where every penny has gone for 3 years. Ms. Whitaker's smile was precise and predatory. I have been waiting for you to say that, she said. Let us go hunting. Discovery was grueling. Subpoenas. Receipts. Bank statements. Tax returns. Slowly, the puzzle pieces formed a picture. Small transfers from Malcolm to Jasmine with bland labels. Reimbursement loan. A secret joint credit card led to dinners at restaurants I had never heard of and weekends away at charming inns. Then we saw it, 2 round-trip tickets to St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands, dated 3 months before his text. I remembered that week, his alleged design conference in Chicago, the complaints about a dull hotel and boring seminars. He had been on a beach with my sister while I watered his plants. The simmering rage refined my focus. Still, we suspected undisclosed assets. The breakthrough came from Ms. Whitaker's investigator, a meticulous former certified public accountant named Mr. Pruitt. He flagged a series of small, regular withdrawals from Malcolm's business account to a bank we did not recognize. We subpoenaed those records and found the key. Malcolm and Jasmine had opened a secret joint savings account a year before the divorce and funneled money into it. Small deposits that grew larger. Then a single deposit made my blood run cold. A $50,000 wire transfer. It was from my inheritance. After my father's death, I had given Malcolm access to help me manage the investment account. He told me he was moving funds into a higher yield bond. Instead, he wired the money into the secret account he shared with my sister. The court granted us access to emails related to their financial planning. We sat in Ms. Whitaker's conference room, printouts spread like a funeral shroud. In them, they discussed their escape fund with a chilling casual cruelty. Jasmine wrote, "Do not worry, baby. Just a little longer. Talia is so focused on work she never looks at the statements. She trusts you completely." In another, Malcolm strategized, "Best time is right after the new year. She will have gotten her annual bonus. We can pay off the last of the card debt before we go. I will handle the text. It is cleaner. No messy emotions. Cleaner. No messy emotions." Then the email that made me physically ill. A high-end jewelry store confirming purchase of a custom 3-carat diamond engagement ring shipped to Jasmine's apartment. Attached was a digital receipt. He used stolen inheritance money to buy my sister an engagement ring. I placed the paper down. My hands were steady. Hurt and rage burned away, leaving something crystalline. This was no longer just a divorce. It was fraud. Ms. Whitaker's face went still with cold fury. She made one call. We requested an immediate in-person 4-way settlement conference. "Tell Mr. Ellison to bring his client," she said. "And tell him to bring his checkbook." We met in a beige conference room at a neutral law firm. I wore a severe black suit. It felt like attending a funeral. Theirs. Malcolm and Mr. Ellison were already there. Malcolm looked gaunt, eyes hollow, fingers clicking a pen. He would not look at me. Mr. Ellison began a speech about finding a mutually agreeable path. Ms. Whitaker raised a hand and cut him off. She drew a spiral-bound document from her briefcase, nearly 3 inches thick, and slid it across the table. It landed before Malcolm with a conclusive thud. The cover read, "Project Elise, Summary of Findings." Elise is Jasmine's middle name. Mr. Ellison bristled. "What is this?" "A meticulously documented account of your client's conspiracy to commit marital fraud," Ms. Whitaker said. "Complete with bank statements, wire transfers, emails, and receipts. My personal favorite is tab G, the engagement ring. 3 carats. Lovely." Mr. Ellison flipped through the binder. Confusion gave way to comprehension, then panic. Color drained from his face. Malcolm finally looked at me. His eyes begged. I stared back, expression neutral. The man across the table was a stranger. Ms. Whitaker let the silence spread until it pressed on the walls. Then she folded her hands. "Here is what will happen," she said. "This is not an offer. It is the settlement agreement your client will sign today. Alternatively, this binder is Exhibit A in our civil fraud lawsuit, which we will file Monday morning, and we will forward a copy to the district attorney's office. Wire fraud is a serious offense." Her terms were swift and merciless. The house would be sold. The first $50,000 from the sale, the exact amount of my stolen inheritance, would be returned to me immediately off the top. The remaining equity would be split 70-30 in my favor. All requests for spousal support withdrawn permanently. Malcolm would assume 100% of all marital debt, including the business loan I had foolishly co-signed, and he would have 30 days to refinance and remove my name. His share would also pay for every dollar of my legal fees. Mr. Ellison sputtered. "This is punitive. It is extortion." Ms. Whitaker's smile was thin. "No, Robert. This is consequences." She checked her watch. "You have 30 minutes to sign." We stood and left them with the binder. We did not need 30 minutes. In less than 10, Mr. Ellison emerged gray-faced. The papers were signed. It was done. The hearing on emergency support still took place. In court, Mr. Ellison tried theatrics, painting Malcolm as a sensitive artist crushed by a controlling wife. Words like financially crippled and maliciously abandoned floated in the stale air. Ms. Whitaker stood and cut through drama with facts. She displayed Malcolm's text on the courtroom monitor and laid out a clear, color-coded summary of my payments of all marital debts. Finally, she presented a record showing Malcolm's attempted withdrawal of the full balance from a dormant joint account after he sent the text. Judge Carter peered over her glasses and fixed Malcolm with a flinty stare. "Sir," she said, "why did you feel it was appropriate to end a 15-year marriage with a text message?" He stammered and flailed. The ruling was decisive, a minimal, temporary amount, enough for modest rent and groceries. Nowhere near the fantasy he demanded. In her summary, Judge Carter wrote that Malcolm's precipitous and unconventional actions were the primary cause of his instability. After the signing and the ruling, the ugliness shifted into guerrilla tactics. The anonymous human resources complaint had failed. Whisper campaigns fizzled under the weight of my work record. My mother's calls remained blocked. The ceaseless noise dimmed, replaced by a sober quiet that felt like the inside of a bell after the strike. I sold the house. It felt like an amputation. Every room held a ghost. I sorted 15 years into 3 piles: keep, donate, and burn. The burn pile was larger than I expected. I bought a small, sunlit apartment in a neighborhood I had always loved, one Malcolm dismissed as too noisy. That first night, I ate pizza on the floor amid boxes. The quiet was not lonely. It was peaceful. It was mine. I rebuilt. I reconnected with friends Malcolm had slowly discouraged. I took to weekend hikes and felt my lungs burn in a good way. 6 months later, I did something entirely for myself. A 2-week solo trip along the California coast, from San Diego to Monterey. I ate fish tacos on piers, drank coffee in small diners, sat in waterfront squares sketching in a notebook, a hobby I had neglected for years. I learned to enjoy my own company, to be my own ally. As for them, I do not seek information, but it finds me. They never made it to the Hawaii trip they had been whispering about. After debts and legal fees, Malcolm's share of the house proceeds was almost entirely wiped out. They rented a cramped, tired apartment across town. The grand romance that fed on secrecy did not survive budgeting and shared bills. I saw them once in a grocery store aisle that smelled faintly of detergent. I heard their voices before I saw their faces, sharp, tired, bickering about whether to buy the brand-name laundry soap or the generic. Jasmine looked drained. The glow my mother once gushed about was gone, replaced by a pinch of resentment. Malcolm looked defeated, shoulders slumped, a gray man who traded everything for nothing. They did not see me. I turned my cart and slipped away. In front of the cereal wall, I had a revelation. I felt nothing. Not anger. Not pain. Not even satisfaction. Just a vast, clean indifference. They were not villains in my story. They were 2 unhappy people, choosing among cereals. They had no power over me. My mother and I do not speak. She tried calling after the settlement. I did not answer. Some betrayals live beneath the skin. My life is not the one I planned. It is smaller and quieter, but truer. Mine. That text message was designed to end me, but it began me instead. He thought he was closing a chapter. What he did was force me to write a better book, with no co-author. The last time I handled any piece of our former life was when I found a photograph on my refrigerator under a magnet. It was from Jasmine's wedding years ago, me beside her, beaming, believing. I slid it from the frame and, without ceremony, tore it into tiny pieces until the colors became confetti in my hands. I let them fall into the trash. A quiet burial. I kept the spiral-bound binder, Project Elise, on a high shelf in my new office, not as a trophy but as a record. Facts saved me when feelings tried to drown me. Facts held steady. Facts returned my voice. In the end, it was not revenge that carried me forward. It was the clear line between what was mine and what was not, between what I owed and what I did not. Sometimes I think about the morning sunlight in that old kitchen, how it reached across the island and caught the dust in its palm. I think about the blue mug, the paint stain on the sleeve, the autumn quiet. Then I let the image go. There are new mornings now. New sunlight on different walls. New coffee, new pages. The numbers still add up. They always will. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.